He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
100 days of Donald Trump. Welcome to the Alex Marlow Show. And you guys know my grade. I'm giving it an A+++. It is really a historic occasion, and it's worth marking it. And just for a little history, we talk about the 100 days as that was the standard that was set by Franklin Roosevelt during the Great Depression. And we have since looked at it as a benchmark for trying to get as much done as possible. And for Donald Trump, it really he came into this second administration, which is slightly different from a second term, as a lame duck, so to speak. And because of that, he was, I think you can calibrate things slightly differently because he's not running again. So the name of the game is to get as much of the agenda through as possible, which is always the case, but he doesn't have any really ancillary or secondary considerations. It is trying to get himself in the best place for have a legacy that lasts. I would like to think he thinks of himself as a historical figure and a legacy that will last a long time, and setting up America to succeed so that we look back on his life and think that he really was the man for the moment. And so what he's doing is he's really pushed fast. He's pushed through a lot of executive orders. He's pushed through a lot of policy that would be seen as revolutionary. And he's had a lot of political capital in order to do that, because not only did he win the election, but he won with the popular vote victory, nearly a majority in that. He won every single swing state and improved greatly upon his vote totals from the past. And I think that also he overwhelmed all the lawfare during the campaign. So he set himself up on a really strong footing. And I just feel like it's important to note some of the incredible things that have been accomplished. There's just so many things that to give him credit for. I'll start with I'll go kind of small to big. We got the plastic straws back. I mean, come on, that's a big deal. He's able to just point his finger and just say, we're not doing the paper straws anymore. That stuff makes your life better. We get military recruitment coming back up. Who would have wanted to serve and fight and potentially die for this country with generals like Mark Milley running the place, Lloyd Austin with his masks and his face shields and not telling people when he's in the hospital for a long time? Not inspiring, not the sort of thing that you would want. And it's something that I think is having those people lead our country is a blow to the American spirit. If you get a chance to watch Trump's speech last night in Michigan, he gave a couple, but there was one that was really like a campaign rally. You could see his spirit on full display. And this is exactly what I got from him when I got to meet with him at the Oval Office a month ago. It wasn't just the Oval Office, of course. It was the private dining room off to the side, right near the Monica Lewinsky room, which President Trump loves to talk about. But what he's able to do is, I think he's revitalizing the American spirit and American patriotism. He said this, I think it was during the campaign in 2020, where this really solidified for me that he's a cheerleader for this country. And that's how he's operated during these first 100 days. And it's just meant a lot to me to see this, because I do feel like America is an exceptional place. I've always felt like we've been touched by God, and I felt like I've been touched by God to have got to live here, to be here, and to grow up in pursuit of the American dream. But some of that is eroding. I think some of these endless wars, some of the wokeness, the move towards godlessness, the efforts to second guess ourselves at every turn. There's a time and a place for all of that, but we've way overdone it. And now it's time to start rooting out some of the worst parts of society and start venerating some of the best parts of it. And I really think he's doing that. I think his enthusiasm for American sports, even. I'm not a big sports ball guy, but he shows up at the events. He's showing up at the football game, showing up at the UFC matches, and he's getting cheered. He's getting celebrated. It's very cool stuff. Other things he's done. The wokeness stuff cannot be understated. This is stuff that's gotten a lot of attention, but taking men out of women's sports, getting these companies to ditch DEI, even things like convincing mainstream Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 10 companies even, to start using terms like the Gulf of America versus the Gulf of Mexico. This stuff, I think, it does rejuvenate the spirit, because the anti-science left, the people who were going around constantly pointing at things and saying, actually, there's a big problem with that. Him not wanting to do that is, I think it's really refreshing, and it's necessary, because none of us want that. None of us want to live in a country that sucks. It's a bad place. And yet the left has spent a lot of time, especially the universities, convincing us America has been an inherently terrible place. Donald Trump has been the exact antidote to that. He really has. He has been the guy who is saying we're no longer going along with that. And in the meantime, he's tricked the Democrats. This is one of my favorite things. He's tricked the Democrats into going along with some of the worst, most ridiculous policies possible. The first one that I can think of is tricking them into thinking that Harvard needs $8 billion in handouts from the U.S. government every year. They've got a $50 trillion, maybe it's $53 trillion endowment that's self-sustaining. You just let that operate on a 8% ROI basic fund every year. And that's enough to run the whole operation. And yet we're giving them was $8 or $9 billion a year. And he's cut that down by 2. And he convinced the whole woke left that we need to defend that. In the meantime, organizations like FIRE have said that Harvard is actually the most hostile entity towards free speech on earth, or at least in the university system. That had to end. Trump is at least exposing that the universities have been so corrupted. They are against free speech. They're against what it means to be America, and yet they're dependent on us for funding our taxpayers, all of whom are strapped right now. I love that. And he tricked the left in defending all of it. The latest one, Abrego Garcia, everyone's favorite Italian El Salvadorian, a guy clearly connected to international crime. The most obvious example is that him in the car with 8 people, with no luggage, all headed from Texas to Maryland. Ostensibly, they all live at Abrego Garcia's house. All that suggests he's involved in international crime and international human trafficking. And yet, he got every Democrat to defend him, many of whom were flying down to meet with him as if he was some level of a saint. Trump has got a gift for this stuff. He has got the Democrats in a spot where they are deeply morally compromised, and they feel like because of the pathological resistance to anything Trump does, the thought that if Trump does it, it must be wrong. Because of that positioning the Democrats have staked out, he's got them continually to expose themselves as either feckless or stupid or deeply immoral. He's done this throughout his time in public life, but I got to say, those 2 examples, the Harvard one, the Abrego Garcia one, it just reminds you of one of his gifts that is unique. He engenders so much irrational hatred from people that they continue to make fools of themselves. This came up with Emma Jo yesterday during our interview with her, where we talked about the complete lie that the media is obsessed with, that there was a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline, which was well known. Everybody knew it. And there were 2 types of media figures that were those who were, I guess, so gullible that even though they knew, they were trying to act as though they didn't know, even though it was very obvious. And then those who knew and then just lied, were sort of openly lying. They knew he was declining and they went along with it anyways. But the more interesting group in some ways is this group of people who were observing Joe Biden every day, knew he was frail, knew that he was mentally deteriorating, knew he was confusing his wife and his sister, knew he couldn't stop sniffing children, knew he didn't know where he was, where, as Trump always talks about, he just plopped down on the beach and fall asleep. Everyone knew that was a problem. It was not sustaining. But they still, I guess, were able to be so consumed with their Trump hatred that they were willing to ignore it. And that sort of pathology is almost more interesting to track in a way, because there is, as Emma Jo pointed out in yesterday's show, there's almost a religious nature to it. There's almost an insanity to it. There's something deeply psychologically flawed with the people who've covered Washington during this time. And I think Trump has exposed a lot of them, and a lot of Americans are just sick of it. We want to go back to Americana, and Trump is the vehicle to do that for many of us, is to get us to sort of grab us by the lapels and shake us out of this stupor that we put ourselves in since the Obama years. And we're moving out of it in a lot of ways. So I will say that from my vantage point, there are 2 massive, massive victories in why I give him an A+++. And you guys know I don't grade in a curve on the first 100 days of his administration, because there are 2 wins that are happening that if he does nothing else other than these 2, it'll be a successful presidency. And the first one, as has been repeated on the show, and thankfully this came up last night in his speech because everyone should hear it, the fact that he has gotten border crossings down to almost 0. This is hard to believe. As someone who grew up in LA, where you drive around in neighborhoods that I frequent and you see signs for illegal aliens darting across some sort of a highway. You've seen it if you've been down here, where little families trying to break into the country, more often working age men, but often families literally sprinting across highways because they've come here illegally. We're not seeing that anymore because people have gotten the picture. America's closed. And if you're here, for the most part, if you're not connected to gangs, you will be treated humanely, but you will be deported. But it is one of these things where we've encouraged people to come illegally into this country because they had hopes that through our parole pipeline, through various catch and release programs, through amnesty programs, that they will be able to stay here indefinitely and to be able to put down roots, set up some sort of a life, and then be able to send money back to their countries via remittances. That's no more. We're not doing that anymore. And the message has been made crystal clear by Stephen Miller, by Tom Homan, by Kristi Noem and her cool outfits and her great makeup and her great hairstyle. And of course, the man himself, Donald J. Trump. This is the big win of all the big wins. And I love it. You love to see it. The other big win is starting the process of decoupling from China. And this has not gone perfectly, but it's gone very, very well. And there's two components to this. First of all, there's the reshoring. There's bringing manufacturing back, bringing countries back to America, bring companies back to America to make products here and to start doing R&D here, to create jobs here, high tech, pharmaceuticals, the industries that we thought were long gone, they're going away. This is better for America's national security. It's better for our economy. It also, I think it's time for the world to have a shakeup and not be dependent on Chinese slave labor. This is big, and I think that it's time to use our power to do some good there. It's also the beginning of the process of holding China accountable for the coronavirus pandemic, which they've never been held accountable for that. We also have not really started the process of holding China accountable for concentration camps, organ harvesting, the sex-selective abortions, it's the jailing political opponents, executing people over minor drug charges. There is so many things that China has done that they deserve to be held accountable for, and they're not. And so us trying to decouple from them for whatever the reason, I think is a good thing. And $5 trillion in new investment of major companies into America is huge, and it even goes beyond that. As I've stated on the show, I'll state it again because we need to get this out there. When you see companies like Apple, they're not realistically going to make soup to nuts from R&D to production. It's not all going to happen in the United States today. But when they're starting to build plants, factories in India, and as opposed to places like the Xinjiang province where they have Uyghur concentration camps, that's a massive victory in and of itself as well. So when you start seeing that, because we're pulling them away from the sinosphere, Trump has done that more than anyone, and he's doing it at a very quick pace. So all of that, you start seeing a lot of reasons to be happy. There's many more of them. Those of you who subscribe to our Breitbart Fight Club, Joel Pollack has written a First 100 Days ebook. So if you subscribe, you get that for free. Those of you who are subscribers, look for that because you can get it. And there are more details there as well. But he is, I believe, since Lincoln, and I think Joel agrees with this, probably been the most active. He's had the most to do in the first 100 days. And that urgency, I think, is very inspiring, not just for our country and for being an observer of President Trump and his administration, but for me, just even in my personal life, I really think that's a big deal. We got some mixed economic news today. The first one, I'll highlight the good one, which is that inflation is actually at zero. So income and spending are growing, but inflation is now at zero. I didn't think it would go to zero. Now, I'm not going to be overly enthusiastic quite yet because there's a lot more mixed economic news. But the fact that we got inflation not just at a sustainable 2 or 3% rate, we got it down to zero, is, again, it shows you, even with some mixed financial news and even with a lot of noise about negative polling, there is so much good happening in the country and reason to be optimistic in the economy. Folks, have you seen what's happened to gold this year? It's up 25%, over $3,400 an ounce. Meanwhile, the stock market, it's total chaos, bouncing around, losing trillions of dollars. The Dow could have just seen the worst month since the Great Depression. Inflation's still running hot. We got the national debt at $36 trillion. All that spells chaos. But then there's gold, which Goldman Sachs says could hit $3,700 an ounce this year. And I've got friends at Priority Gold that can get you a free gold guide now that will teach you how you can buy gold for yourself. You'll learn how to lock in today's gold prices, and you'll learn how to invest in an IRA or 401k with gold, tax and penalty free. And all you got to do is text the letters SNC, as in Salem News Channel. Text SNC to the number 24999 to get your free 2025 gold guide right now. Just text SNC, like Salem News Channel, SNC to 24999, and you'll get your free gold guide now. Gold prices could increase at any time. That's why you got to text SNC to 24999 now to get in there with my friends at Priority Gold. Now, I'll bring up the blockbuster story for the day that everyone has been commenting on, which is GDP declined 0.3%. So the economy shrank for the first time in 3 years. Recall that Joe Biden had 2 consecutive quarters of contraction, which is a recession, though the media spun that it's not a recession. So we had 1 quarter of contraction, but I'll tell you, this is not without some nuance to it. It's because we had this surge in inputs. The imports. And this is sort of thing that you could see something balance out here. But John Carney writes about this. The contraction overall GDP was driven by a widening trade gap as imports surged ahead of new tariffs announced by Trump administration's part of efforts to reshape global trade. So people are trying to get the imports in quickly. People are buying stuff quickly that they feel like might get tariffed. And that's really what's going on. And that explains the delta. Not to say it's going to be great for a bit as we adjust to the new normal. But first of all, the administration is, I don't think, doing a terrific job messaging that there is, I wouldn't say necessarily short-term pain, but there could be some elements of the economy that feel short-term pain for longer security, a longer-term gain, because the reshoring, the reestablishing America as a manufacturing base, then that's going to happen right away. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's going to take some time. And in the meantime, goods that are already there before the tariffs get locked in, people are going to try to import them and then buy them very quickly. And that's going to see a big spike in that. So it is a huge spike in consumer goods, 27.5%, 6.6% rise in vehicles, 3.8% gain in capital goods. Exports edged up just a little bit, 1%. So, so that's where the calculation goes. And we'll keep you up on it. We'll do Carney shows so you guys get full information. But again, not a reason to panic. It's just the world is moving in a different direction. And overall, from our vantage point, I see this as very positive. Trump has also accomplished all this in the face of no real substantial Democrat resistance. We'll check in with them in a second. Of course, we pulled some clips to see what the Democrats are talking about 100 days in. But Biden appointed judges, and not to mention Obama, Clinton judges as well, but Biden appointed judges blocking huge portions of Trump's agenda, slowing down his agenda, trying to gum up the court system, has been a significant part of the resistance. And it really is the story of the year from the left's perspective, I think. And we just got one right before the show started, a Biden-appointed judge, Judge Jennifer Thurston in California, Eastern District of California, appointed by Biden, blocking Border Patrol agents across California from arresting suspected illegal aliens unless they have a warrant for their arrest. So now we need warrants to arrest people who we believe to be illegal aliens, should never have been here to begin with. So this is their whole philosophy. Is the whole philosophy is that being an illegal alien, it does not make you that initial crime is not really a crime. So it is, if you've done nothing else wrong, and obviously culturally speaking, people who are inclined to commit that first crime are quite likely to be inclined to commit another one. I know people argue that they're inclined not to commit crimes because they might get caught. But I just don't think that that's the case. I mean, we see stories basically every day of another illegal alien committing a crime. We got one today at Breitbart, illegal alien getting 25 years in prison for raping an unconscious woman in a Mississippi restaurant. So it's just none of that should ever happen. We shouldn't see that one time. So, but now they're trying to do what they can to try to make it difficult to arrest and deport illegal aliens. And this is completely considered normal for them. It's insane to all of us, But for them, this is what they deem to be a normal thing. And it slowed down some of what Trump is trying to accomplish, but that's why his record level of executive orders and that high energy approach that he's taken, Trump time, as Peter Navarro calls it, that's what we need. And that is in large part what we're getting. So that's my overall take in first 100 days. It's so positive. We'll come back to stuff. Obviously, I want to see more deportation. You're not seeing a huge discussion of DOGE lately because now there's talk that maybe we've only found 120 billion in cuts. Joni Ernst told me we were at $250 billion already within the first few weeks. So I'm disappointed if the real number is really 150 trillion. But I say this with a word of extreme caution and optimism. It's not just a silver lining. In a way, this is the big point for me, is that when it comes to cutting waste, fraud, and abuse as a people, we've never even tried. So as a government, we've never even tried to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. And so now that we have this culture where it's not assumed you get a permanent job once you get to Washington, you're not assumed that you can waste everyone's money all the time, and that you can work from home in a bathtub while you have a government job that pays well with good benefits and great vacation days and great sick days and all that stuff, that you don't get to do that forever. So we know the big open secret is that cutting entitlements is the real way to shrink the budget. Maybe cutting some military spending and somehow whittling down that debt. Those are the best ways to do it. It's not just going to be point by point finding each element of abuse by a few $1 million. That's not going to make a huge difference in the budget, but that's not all the point. A lot of the point is we are no longer tolerant of wasting taxpayer money. I liken this to if you are in debt and your debt tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. You call in Dave Ramsey's show and say, Dave, what do I do? The first thing he's going to tell you is to stop going out to dinner. Like, he's not going to say, well, somehow find a way to get $100,000 fast. It's going to be, well, let's just start by not wasting money at all for a while. Like, cook your own food until you're caught up. And that's the approach that DOGE is taking at a minimum. Now, I think they're making big changes. I think they're identifying a lot of great stuff. If we can cut a few, I think Trump should aim to cut at least 3 entire bureaucracies. Department of Education should be the first. Maybe the EPA is next. Who knows? There could be some others that we could do. But overall, I think that the bottom line is that when you start with this culture of cutting, we're moving in a good direction. And I think that that's big. And I would like to see more from DOGE. But overall, I still love the effort, and I like that anything is getting cut, because culturally in Washington, we've just never seen it. But we're seeing deportations. I'd like to see more. We're seeing cuts. I'd like to see more. But overall, I think that he's really neutralized a lot of the left, other than these judges. And he's making pretty quick progress for 100 days in his agenda. Tariff messaging needs to improve. So there's some stuff that can improve, but that's not really the focus. This is an A+ first 100 days. And let's see what Trump had to say. He spoke last night. I watched most of it. I hope you guys did too. His energy was amazing. He was hilarious. There were a couple of funny moments where he brought up Margot Martin, who's one of his assistants, who is very statuesque, beautiful. She looks sort of like a Victoria's Secret model back before we went woke and we did all of the non-binary four-spear furries modeling the underwear. And she's one of the people who works outside the Oval Office for Trump and takes a lot of his photographs. And then he says she's the best photographer in the world, the best in the world. And then he takes it back and says, well, I don't know if she's the best, but she's the most beautiful photographer in the world. And it was pretty great. And then he brought up Scott Jennings from CNN. Jennings looked like he was really surprised and uncomfortable being up there, and he had a one-liner and it was not very good, but it just makes it fun and organic. He's having a great time. This guy's having a great time, and he deserves to. He's been through a lot. He is living his dreams. And I find it to be an inspiration. Let's see. Misty cut a couple clips. I don't know what these are. You got to watch these speeches. He loves them, and I love to watch them. But let's see what Misty pulled for us.
And, I don't know why. It was so important to win, because they used to say, the fake news, to be a great president, you have to serve 2 terms. So now we're going to serve 2 terms. Now they've taken that one. Cross. Right? Right, Dr. Oz? Cross that one off. Cross that one off. No, they say it all the time. When I was out, they say, well, they go out. Thank you. Thank you. That's right. But we've ended the radical left. Well, we actually already served 3, but if you count. But remember, I like the victories. I like the 3 victories, which we absolutely had. I just don't like the results of the middle term, the results.
So he's having fun. He's having a good time with it. But he also suggests he's not going to run 2028, which is a bit of a disappointment for me. I'm still a Trump 2028 guy. Let's see what happens.
And also, we cannot allow a handful of communist radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws and assume the duties that belong solely to the President of the United States. Judges are trying to take away the power given to the President to keep our country safe, and it's not a good thing. But I hope, for the sake of our country, that the Supreme Court is going to save this, because we have to do something. These people are just looking to destroy our country. Nothing will stop me in the mission to keep America safe again. It's very simple. Keep America safe again.
Yeah, it's good. And he's going to keep doing it. He's going to move ahead. And he's got this rhinoceros skin where he's able to deal with so many of the attacks on him in a way with such resilience. And I feel like sometimes when he sees the lameness of the efforts to thwart him, it probably only helps him. So I want to check in on some of these. Here is a protest about Trump that's apparently going on right before the show. Misty pulled some clips. I want to show you the extent. Recall every weekend there's a big march with celebrities and music and screaming, and Ashley Judd talking about being a nasty woman and the pink hats. And now this is what they've got 100 days in. So you've got Pikachu is out there, a bunch of people with the rainbow colors, and they're fanned out, and there's no one here. And this looks like Washington, so there's got to be right by the White House. Looks like downtown DC. But yeah, it's DC. There's no one here. One person's got a bike helmet and they're walking. These people are insane. Someone's got a couch. I don't know why they're carrying a couch. Sounds very heavy. Oh yeah. It's a JD Vance joke, right? Yeah, which is just came out of nowhere. This is just great. I mean, let's see. We got some more.
Wow.
The person with the bike helmet's got a megaphone. This is what democracy looks like. So the Pikachu person, that feels like the sort of thing that is a joke. I mean, these people are deranged, and they can't even fake it with the protests. Misty reminded us of this great moment from Arrested Development that is apropos here.
Oh, stop booing. There's nothing wrong with it. There are dozens of us. Dozens!
That's about right. That's a great show, by the way. That one I used to see, that got a lot of spins for me in college. I used to rewatch that one to chill out and unwind. All right, let's check in on how the left is doing. We got Ilhan Omar, see her take on all this.
If they thought the first 100 days of chaos would break us, they were wrong. Because across this country, millions of us are standing up for our human rights and our democracy. Judges are fighting back to block these unconstitutional executive orders. Here in Congress, we are fighting back every single day. We are fighting to protect immigrant families from mass detention and deportation. We are fighting to prevent horrific cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security. It won't be easy, but we must continue to organize, to speak out, and to build a future that reflects our highest ideals.
I play this stuff because you want to see what they got. And so they got Pikachu out there. They've got the old guy with the bike helmet out there at the megaphone. And then they got Ilhan Omar saying we're going to cut Social Security, which Trump's not doing. And he's not doing it for political purposes. I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to ever fix the budget without doing stuff like that, but we're just not right now. It's not happening. All right, let's see. So we got Pete Buttigieg. You keep saying edge enough times and you do amuse yourself, I promise. All right, he's got a beard now. Let's see if he got any new ideas, though.
Well, we're officially 100 days into the Trump presidency, and President Trump is coming here to Michigan to mark the occasion. When he arrives, he will be the most unpopular president at the 100-day mark in modern history. And I think we all know why. He came to power pointing to a number of problems, many of them very real in this country, and promised that he was going to quickly and easily solve them. And instead, those problems have gotten worse on his.
Is this entertaining at all? I mean, it just seems very boring. I feel like turning it off already. Do any of you feel like he is accurate that Trump's the least popular at 100 days? I mean, I know some polls say he's not doing well, but do any of you really think he's that unpopular, that they think that deporting legal aliens, decoupling from China? Because I'm noticing that even some of the conservatives that you would think maybe, I've been keeping an eye on a few people who I don't think are quite as committed emotionally to Trump, who supported him in 2024. I'm trying to keep an eye on a lot of them to see where they're at so far. And most of them, to me, seem pretty positive still. So I'm not seeing, so if he's not losing conservatives, who's he losing? I know the polls can say that he's not doing great, but I hesitate to be a poll truther, but the polls don't really matter because he's not running again. And a lot of this stuff, we got to let it ride. And that's why Trump's moving quickly, is because some of these things are going to take a little bit to kick in to be effective. The same way, remember, they complained about egg prices not being down. And then after 48 hours, and now they're down. Now they stop talking about it because they know they don't have to. They can just move on to a different talking point. All right, let's see if he goes anywhere with this.
Take the economy. Any way you measure the economy, whether it's by prices, or by jobs, or by consumer confidence, or his favorite, the stock market, all of those measures are worse.
So now they're big defenders of the stock market. So this is where they didn't give Trump credit when the stock market boomed under Trump last time. And of course, we know the vast majority of stocks are held by the richest Americans. And now all of a sudden we're looking at the stocks, which are driven by the biggest companies in the world. So we were told these guys hate corporations, and then now they love the stock market. That's the first thing they're talking about. Also, inflation zero. Like, there's no inflation right now at all. So for the time being, there's no inflation. I'm not saying it'll always stay that way. But with no inflation, you might even see those interest rates come down, and then people will really be a lot happier. So I don't know, food for thought, consider it.
Worse
Here we go.
than they were 100 days ago. Same thing with government efficiency. And a lot of us agree across party lines that the government needs to be shaken up to become more efficient, to serve people better. But that's not what we're seeing.
Recall, he was a cabinet secretary in the last administration the entire time. So did Pete Buttigieg do anything to reform the Department of Transportation in a positive way? No, he had crisis after crisis, trains going off the tracks. He had that port crisis. It's another thing where you'll hear Democrats talk about tariffs. We're not going to be able to have the same level of Christmas gifts and stuff this year. All bogus stuff. And it's bogus because they had a record level of ships, container ships, idling off the coast of the country right before Christmas. I think it was 2021 or 2022. I'll pull this up exactly. I think it was 22 when this happened. And Pete and Biden couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to get the ships in, and they came with all these terrible ideas to fix it. I covered this in great detail in Breaking Biden, but it's deep inefficiency. Here we go.
VA service, or wait times to get help with Social Security, or so many other measures of whether the government's doing a good job, it's gotten worse. And of course, we have seen basic American constitutional rights and freedoms trampled on again and again. But the main thing I wanted to mention is that this unpopularity, this turning that's happening among the American people, isn't just the result of his failures. It's in many ways the result of your successes, from people taking to the streets to voices and institutions in civil society standing up for American freedom. Even Americans showing up at town halls, getting Republican members of Congress who have not been the best at listening these last few months or years.
Okay, so they're taken to the streets. Let's see what that looks like. So Pete's giving Pikachu credit. He's given the helmet guy credit. He's given the couch, the J.D. Vance couch, credit. Which will you choose, courage or compliance? Okay, I'm just saying that these people are heroes. Okay, here we go.
Well, we're official. Keep it up. We have not been the best at listening these last few months or years, getting them to stop and pay attention. All of that is clearly having a major effect. So please keep it up. And at the same time, we recognize that no matter how important good opposition is, there's more to this moment than just opposition. We need to be lifting up and seeking out the voices that are helping make sense of this moment and
you know
pointing toward
what?
a better future.
I think I know exactly what will get us to a better future. It's making sure that we stay in the way of everything Trump tries to do, especially this.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
That's it. Just remember, that is the face of the resistance. Bernie Sanders, smartest guy. Trump was complimenting Sanders yesterday for being very sharp and very old. I thought it was interesting because Trump commented on this, because Sanders being old, if he were to run for president, then Trump would be much younger. So I think Trump would love it if Sanders ran. It'd just be good in general. So one thing that the groundbreaking left has is they've got still these hippie culture of people yearning for the 60s. I was talking about this earlier in the week, that with Cory Booker on the steps and all these people, they want to go out and protest and feel like the protests are meaningful. Neil Young's out there and he's saying, if you're a fascist, get a Tesla. This is the lyrics to a song. It's electric. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, taste your freedom. It's a good song. It's really good. We voted for this stuff when we voted for Trump. Like we like the meltdowns. We enjoy it. They're enjoyable. So the left is just completely lost. Now they're kind of fighting amongst themselves about whether or not the Biden cover-up happened. Chuck Todd says the media didn't cover up for Biden, which is like, I'm kind of with Todd. Like I don't think the media covered up for Biden at all. I don't get the people who are acting like it did. So, but Nolte comes after Todd, so Nolte can disagree with me. The media is broken. For decades, big cable and legacy media have filtered information to hide the truth. But thanks to podcasts and new media like this show, the truth can break through, providing voices and views the legacy outlets block from the air. But big cable still has one major way to control information, and that's access. They do this by limiting access to something called spectrum, the invisible airwaves that power affordable wireless internet, and by forcing you into their bundles, keeping independent media out of reach. Trump and Republicans in Congress have a chance to do something big here by making more spectrum available and breaking big cable's stranglehold on information. So there's a couple things you could do to find out more. You can go to endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org for more information about how to make more spectrum available. And if you're convinced, you should call your senators and your members of Congress and say, hey, why don't you work with President Trump and try to make more spectrum available? So endthecableopoly.org to find more. So this is not going to stop the left just because they've lost their mind. So they're now going to try to impeach Trump. Someone named Sri Thanadar has introduced articles of impeachment against Trump. And you're going to see, if you missed the visuals, Thanadar is from Michigan, or Sri. I like the name Sri. I want to say Sri whenever I can. This guy has either got the most epic flow in the whole Congress or is wearing a really convincing piece, because he's got mountains of hair. And he's got an ill-fitting suit. He's got a black tie, and he is ready to impeach Donald Trump. Let's hear it. Let's see the rationale. Here is the resistance 100 days in.
This is Congressman Sri Thanadar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive
how much would you have paid for him to say abrego with his accent? I would have paid big bucks for that. Too bad. Here we go.
Due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment. Article 1, obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power. From denying due process to unlawful deportations, Trump defied court orders. Article 2, taking away Congress's power.
So first of all, the obstruction of justice, I guess they're talking about this a ruling that Trump is to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. But it was over the administrative error, but Trump doesn't have to do anything with regards to Garcia. He's a legal alien. He's El Salvadoran citizen. Trump doesn't have to do anything. So the plane was in the air before the order came down. So Trump does not have to do anything. And if Garcia came back, he'd just get deported again. So this is all meaningless. And also he says the abuse of power, this is the left's favorite thing, to act like Trump is the only one who's ever abused power. Virtually every single president has abused power, and it was never the standard for impeachment until Trump the last time around. So this is worthy of a longer historical discussion that we're not going to get into today, but it's not a great effort if this is what they got. Let's continue.
The purse. Trump dismantled agencies and froze funds without permission from Congress. Article 3, abuse of trade powers and international aggression. He imposed damaging tariffs and threatened military invasions of our allies.
So he's saying you should impeach him for threatening allies. You're saying that we should impeach him for imposing tariffs, which the president is able to do. We discussed this on prior shows, that this was something that the Democrats used to like this when Democrats were in power. And what was the other thing he said? This is my favorite part thus far.
Permission from Congress. Article 3, abuse of trade powers and international aggression. He
international
imposed
aggression,
damaging tariffs, and threatened military invasions of our allies.
The president's no longer able to threaten military invasion. By the way, that's no longer allowed. It's the Shreve Anadar. It's taken that away from the president of the United States in terms of executive powers. You get thrown out of office if you threaten another country, if you're America. These people like other countries more than America, right? I mean, that's what this is about. This is where we're going here.
Article 4, violation of First Amendment rights. He has retaliated against journalists, attorneys, and critics for exercising their right to free speech.
So he wants to impeach him basically for keeping the Associated Press out of the briefing room because they won't call it the Gulf of America. Have you noticed how no one cares? The Associated Press was the most vaunted news outlet in the world, and maybe it is still, to be honest. But we at Breitbart, we have had a subscription to the AP since Andrew Breitbart was running the website, and long before that, since before I was here. So I've been at Breitbart for 17 years, so it's got to be going on 20 years. We've had an Associated Press subscription because they cover a lot of ground that we don't have. Let's put it this way, they have more offices than we have people, and it helps you cover stuff. But they are not allowed in the White House briefing room, and no one cares, no one knows, no one's missing it. So because they won't call the Gulf of America by its rightful name, the Gulf of America. So they've decided to die on that hill, and good, fine, who cares? But this is impeachable now, according to the great Sri Tanadar, who many of you did not hear about until today.
Article 5, creation of an unlawful office establishing the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and giving Elon Musk unconstitutional power over our government and personal data.
Do you think that if DOGE wasn't legitimate, some court wouldn't have stopped it by now? I'm pretty confident the courts would have stopped it. I don't think it's going to take Sri Tanadar to stop it. So where's he pointing to that DOGE can't exist? Is he going to get there? He's probably not, right?
Article 6, bribery and corruption. He has dismissed criminal cases and solicited payments from foreign governments and coerced legal settlements for personal and political gain. Article 7, tyrannical overreach. Finally, and most importantly, he is attempting to consolidate unchecked power and erode the Constitution.
Okay. He goes another 45 seconds. I'm going to cut it off just because you can't do this the whole show. But it's the point is he's impeaching him for everything. He's impeaching him for breathing in the air, for ordering McDonald's, for going to UFC fight. Like, it doesn't. If Trump does it, it's illegal according to the Democrats and the resistance. And they've tried this approach in the past. I've looked into I've done a fair bit of research on this, and I'll bring some of it up, but a lot of them try to isolate and pinpoint one thing that Trump's done that's impeachable. That's been a better strategy for them, but they've been trying to impeach him since before he was elected, as I detailed in both of my books, I believe. This has always been their obsession. They've always thought this is the most expeditious way to stop Trump is with an impeachment. And that's what they're going to try to do again. If the Democrats get the House, he'll get impeached again, no doubt, in this administration. So, which is why 2026 elections matter, because we'll have a big impeachment distraction in the second half of the administration if Republicans don't win. And some of them take the approach, let's just try to impeach him for everything and see what sticks. I think it makes him look silly and stupid, and that's great. So I'm happy to see it. So he's definitely getting some serious eyebrow groomage, Misty points out. I mean, those are well shaped. Those are well shaped. Yeah, that's on my mind. Should I be doing that stuff? I kind of got the raccoon look over my eyes, and I know that some of the men have to do it these days, but it's just, I don't know. It's just tough to get an eyebrow appointment. You know that pain, stiffness, and declining mobility aren't just part of getting older, right? If you took the bone and joint health risk assessment that I've been recommending for the past few weeks and have decided that it's time for you to take action, here's the solution that you've been waiting for. The Juvent Micro Impact Platform uses patented technology to send targeted, gentle signals to your bones and joints. It's safe, it's non-invasive, and it's proven to support stronger bones, healthier joints, and better movement. All of this without drugs or surgery. Don't settle for temporary fixes. Try Juvent for 6 weeks, and if you don't feel the difference, get your money back. Plus, for a limited time, you can save $300 with code MARLOW. Go to juvent.com/Marlow now. You deserve a future with less pain, more freedom, and you can make it happen today. You go to juvent.com, that's juvent.com/Marlow, MARLOW, promo code Marlow, $300 off. Get yourself healthier today. You know what's also interesting? The article that we wrote about, and this is mostly for Misty here, where the photo that we've got of him, his eyebrow shape is entirely different. So he's just putting some work in on the appearance. He's got to be wearing a piece. He's getting the eyebrows done. This guy loves being out there, and I'm happy to give him attention. Let's make him a character in the Marlow Show. Sri Tanadar, guys. All right, I've got a pile of other stuff I want to get to. I've got a great email on snakes versus rats. I'm just running out of time here because I don't want these shows to be an hour and 20 minutes every day. California Democrats have blocked a bill to make sex trafficking of minors a felony again. I mean, guys, if you're trying to convince us you're not pedophiles, then when we want to make it a felony to pay 16, 17-year-olds for sex, then let us make that a felony, please, or else we're just going to brand you pedophiles, because that's what pedophiles would do, is they would protect people who would do that. Robert De Niro's got a son who's come out as trans. So this is just Hollywood, a very toxic place. You don't want your families to be a part of it if you can avoid it. Let's see. We've got, David Horowitz passed away. I'll mention this briefly. David Horowitz, author, conservative, also a former a Berkeley graduate. And so, or at least I think he went to Berkeley at least. I think he graduated too. And so a big part of my, involvement in the conservative movement can be pointed towards David Horowitz. He was my first time I went to a Berkeley College Republicans meeting. He just so happened to be a speaker that day, and which is kind of wild. You don't get big name speakers all the time, maybe once or twice a year, even in a big club like we had at Berkeley. And just so happened the first day he was speaking, and it really made me feel like that the club was exciting, that being a Berkeley conservative was exciting. And his career was marked, I think, by understanding that you weren't necessarily going to beat the left with just op-eds and wearing elbow patches and trying to convince people in D.C. Georgetown cocktail parties. You're going to have to be engaged in some of the same activism that the left had been using to gain a big foothold in the culture, and understanding that the tactics of the left needed to be employed by us if we were going to beat them. And I think that happened. I think we did that to a large degree. I think it was an influence on Andy Breitbart, among others. And I think that that's a historical accomplishment. So may rest in peace, David Horowitz. A shout out from the Marlow Show, and definitely someone who had a positive influence on me as I became a young conservative. All right, there's so much more to do, so much more in the news. I recommend Breitbart.com. Our Fight Club show today with Joel Pollack, we get more into first 100 days of Trump. I've got a bunch of other fun stuff cooked up for you for the rest of the week. But that'll be it for now. Keep emailing me, aloha@alexmarlow.com. I promise you that we will get to emails in the next show or two. That is no doubt about it. So keep hitting me with those, and comments on YouTube and Rumble. Those are all good as well. All right, that's it for today. Thanks, Misty. Thanks to all of you in the audience. Talk to you tomorrow.